This segment sponsored by GBMC Healthcare.
Okay, guys, so you already know the deal. We hear the debate all of the time. How much screen time is too much?
Yeah, it's a question that everyone's asking, but this time we're talking about it for our kids.
Yeah.
So here to tell us what we need to know is GBMC's Dr. Timothy Doran. Welcome so much. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I mean, this is like the way that our world is right now. Everybody's in front of a screen.
Constantly.
Constantly, and these kids, and they're starting so young. So let's talk about the pros and cons of all these digital devices.
Yeah, so certainly there are pros, and we took a dogmatic approach a number of years ago in terms of limiting screen time, but we know now there are advantages. Social media has advantages. There are educational components, so we actually have altered our recommendations based on those issues.
Really?
Oh, really? So what are the new recommendations?
Well, we used to say no more than an hour for anybody. And
no more than an hour?
Well, that's unreasonable.
Okay,
I mean,
I was about to say that
right.
I'm definitely not.
So the average teenager spends about 7 hours a day in front of a screen.
Oh my gosh,
so
that's
1 hour is pretty, it's pretty harsh.
Yes. Gotcha.
The recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics are we really don't want kids on screens before they're 2, and then from 2 to 5, maybe an hour, and then from then on 2 hours. So in fact, that's pretty hard to maintain also.
Right.
But there are things we can do to limit screen time to help parents, and parents are part of it because they have to be aware of their usage as well.
Oh yeah, they're setting an example.
They certainly are, and we know that, and we know that in terms of interacting with their children, if they're on a screen and they're giving that example, it's not going to be conducive to the child limiting their screen time.
Yeah, let's dig more into the cons.
Yeah, so the cons are the big 3 cons are that the obesity is much higher in children who use lots and are on the front of a screen lots and lots. In terms of their physical activity, they're not physically active, and that's bad for them. Their attention, they have attention problems, a lot of kids who are on screens all the time, and it interrupts their sleep. So there's a lot of documented medical complications from too much screen time.
Sure. So how do parents go about actually limiting that time, especially if the kids are resistant to it?
Yeah, so the first thing is to develop a media plan. So you really need to sit down with your children and come up with a plan. What's reasonable? What kind of activities are okay? And then you can set out certain things like device-free zones. So meals should never have, nobody should, the parent or the child, should not have.
Can we do high five on that, please? Because you're eating at a restaurant and like people are like.
They did studies in the restaurant of parents with their children, and they turned out that 80% of their parents were taking calls during a meal at a restaurant, and that's crazy. Everybody knows that's crazy, and I know it's crazy too. And it's just very hard. People are really stuck to their phones, especially.
Absorbed.
Yeah.
Right, completely absorbed.
What about parents who are like, oh, my kids are being active. They're playing Wii Sports.
There certainly are some that parents can, if they're involved, if they're, work with them on a game like that, it's totally fine.
Okay.
But it's really a matter of monitoring and making sure that they're doing things on a screen that are really good for them. Educational activities you can do on
Gotcha. So parents really need to just be vetting the programs that
they really need to be involved in their children's lives, and they have to be focused in and not distracted.
True.
Sure.
And having a healthy balance, because we live in a world where this is technology, this is digital, it's very important, but at the same time we need to have moderation with everything.
That's right. That's exactly the right thing. And to be more active. I mean, what do you do to prevent that? Well, what you do is you're more active with your children. You take them out to museums and to national monuments, and you play with them. I mean, that's what children actually need, is they need play. And they actually need some unstructured play. So that means nothing. That means they just are by themselves and they have to make up their own games like you did when you were kids.
Absolutely.
Which I did. It fosters creativity.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. And actually I just was at a meeting with the Children's Museum in Baltimore, which is a great resource.
Nice.
And University of Maryland trying to develop sort of advice to parents as how they can get children active and involved in play, which is really important for children.
Take it back to the
adolescents.
basics.
Right. Any good insights that you can bring to us from that meeting? How parents can get more involved in their kids' lives?
Well, I mean, it really is that. It's getting more active, getting more involved in their lives, and participating, and not being distant from them, really becoming involved in what they're doing. And you know, for instance, exercise. We know that when parents exercise with their children, that their children are going to be more apt to exercise on their own. So there's a lot of things that parents can do to help foster disengagement from screens.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate having you.
Yeah,
We do.
it's
I know
great.
we could go on for days about
Yes,
this.
yes, there's a lot to cover, but thank you for having me.
Let's all bring
course.
balance in our life.
Yes, exactly.
And there's a website up on your screen if you would like to learn more for yourself. Thanks so much, Doctor.
You're welcome.
All right, well, up next, check out the one-stop shop for you to play or stay. Speaking of playing, we'll be right back here at BMORE Lifestyle.